Okay guys, in today's video we have some very interesting information about a new patent that was uncovered from Sony that has to do with the PlayStation 5 controller, which will most likely end up being called the DualShock 5. I don't see any reason why it won't be called that. And according to Push Square, it seems as though the Lightbar has been removed from the DualShock 5. And we're going to talk about that, and I'm going to be putting the images up here so you can see them for yourself. And obviously there is a striking similarity here between the DualShock 4 and the DualShock 5, but there is, in my opinion, one glaring difference that I do want to highlight and talk about and give my opinion on it. But before that, we're going to read a little bit here. It says that the PlayStation 5's controller, supposedly named the DualShock 5, will ditch the Lightbar that was introduced with the DualShock 4. That's according to a freshly uncovered Sony patent that shows clearly labeled drawings of the next-gen device. As you can see, the PS5 edition doesn't seem to have a light bar, an edition that's divided opinion throughout this console generation. On the PS4, the light bar allows multiple players to be color-coded so that it's easier to tell who's using which controller. It also works alongside the PlayStation camera when playing PlayStation VR titles. The camera tracks the light so that games can better track 3D movement, but not everyone is a fan of the light bar, although Sony did eventually allow users to dim the light thanks to a PS4 firmware update. Some reckon the lowest setting is still too bright, and there's always been concern that the light bar does not help the DualShock 4's limited battery life. No doubt some will appreciate its removal of this if this patent turns out to be accurate, and from where we're sitting, said patent does look legitimate. We reckon this is probably your PS5 controller, ladies and gentlemen. So yeah, some very interesting stuff here. I will say, talking about the light bar for just a moment here, I'm actually completely okay with the idea of Sony not including it with the DualShock 5. I never really saw a practical use to it. I mean, yeah, it is nice that if you are playing couch co-op or you have multiple people using multiple controllers, it's very easy to determine who's who, but realistically speaking, considering the major con here that you get with the light bar, which is that it actually drains the battery life probably much quicker than if there was no light bar, I'm actually kind of happy to see that it won't be there, because there's no denying that the DualShock 4's Achilles heel essentially is the fact that it has very limited battery life, and the number one thing that I think people are going to be looking for with the DualShock 5 when they pick up a PS5 is how much better is the battery life on this controller going to be. So I'm actually all for that. It is also nice to know that it does help with PSVR, but at the same time, you know, you have to think of the trade-offs here, right? Compared to how many people are actually going to be using a DualShock 5 for PSVR versus how many people are just going to be, you know, using it for regular games and only really care about that battery life. But the major thing I want to highlight here, which I'm sure most of you have certainly noticed by this point, is how much thicker the controller actually looks compared to the DualShock 4. Now, there's no doubt that this DualShock 5 patent looks almost identical in nearly every way to the DualShock 4, but that is the thing that has stood out to me the most, is when you look at all the different angles, when you look at where your hands actually go, it's much thicker. It looks like a much bulkier controller. It essentially looks like a bulked up DualShock 4. And honestly, this has me pretty excited, mainly because that is the, I'd say, biggest problem I've always had with the DualShock 4 is it is a very comfortable controller. I've certainly gotten used to it, and I really do enjoy it. I like it very much. I think it feels great in the hands, but I do think that it has always kind of felt a little bit on the slimmer side, especially with the actual paddles that you grip. They've always felt kind of small and a little bit too slim. And seeing this here, seeing that it's actually going to be a thicker, more bulky controller, I'm actually really excited for that. Now, we have to remember recently with the Wired article that came out where there was an individual from there who actually got to go and talk to Jim Ryan and Mark Cerny about the PlayStation 5. They were the first individual to actually be able to hold the prototype of the DualShock 5, and they did say that it is essentially identical to the DualShock 4, but they did mention that it did feel a little bit bulkier and it did feel a little bit heavier, significantly heavier from the DualShock 4, but still lighter than an Xbox One controller. And to me, That's actually something I'm really going to be looking forward to if this is true, and that is in fact what Sony's going for with the DualShock 5. Now, everything else pretty much on the controller, as you look at the images here, looks identical. The button placement, the triggers. I will say that maybe when you're looking at the controller lying down flat and you look at the thumbsticks, it looks as though maybe, potentially, the thumbsticks on the DualShock 5 could be a little bit shorter. Maybe that's just because the controller itself will be a little bit more bulky. And if they're using the same exact thumbsticks, maybe they will end up being just a tad bit shorter. I don't think that that's necessarily a problem. But speaking about the thumbsticks here for just a second, I have to say that that is another issue I've kind of had with the DualShock 4, is not the size or the length of the thumbsticks themselves, but the actual material. I think that the rubber material they use is a little bit slippery at times, and I know that there are a lot of people out there who have had issues with it. I personally haven't had any issues with the rubber material on the analog sticks actually like wearing away too quickly or just like breaking or something or ripping apart. I haven't had that issue, but I do think that the controller, when it comes to the thumbsticks, it can feel a little bit slippery on the thumbs. I hope that they stick with the concave design and they don't go back to the convex. I definitely don't think they're going to do that, even just looking at the patent here. But I would like to see maybe a new material. It's not going to be a make or break situation if they do use the same material, but I think that that would be something that a lot of people would certainly be happy about. But overall, I have to say my thoughts on what we're seeing here, if this does in fact end up being the DualShock 5 that we're going to see announced alongside, or revealed I should say, alongside the PlayStation 5 next year. I'm actually liking what I'm seeing, and seeing that it's essentially going to be a bulkier DualShock 4, and it's going to be a little bit heavier in the hands, and there is not going to be a light bar, and apparently there's actually going to be a microphone built in as well. Sounds awesome to me. One last thing I do want to mention here before ending the video is I'm sure some people are wondering, as I'm wondering myself here, as to whether or not the touchpad here is actually going to be a touch screen. Now, within that Wired article, the individual who held the controller didn't mention anything about a touch screen, and I would have to imagine that if this was something Sony was planning to do with the DualShock 5, they definitely would not allow somebody this early to reveal something like that. So maybe they could have held it back. Maybe it's something they are planning to do, but they didn't want to reveal it yet. They want to save it. But if I'm being honest, I wouldn't anticipate that. I think there's still a slight chance it could end up being a touch screen. I just don't know if that would really be the most practical thing, and you also do have to consider that they're trying to have better battery life with this controller. So when you put all these things together, it seems unlikely to me that there will be a touch screen. I think it's just going to remain a touch pad, and I'd be perfectly fine with that. I just don't really see myself having that much use out of a small touch screen on the DualShock 5, but who knows? Maybe Sony has different plans. Maybe they're going to create some kind of weird DualShock 5 controller where it has some big screen in the center and it's meant for cloud gaming through PlayStation Now. Maybe that's something they could do. Who knows? But I'm just speculating at this point. But at this point, I want you guys to let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. What do you think about this controller patent? What do you think about what you're looking at here? Do you like the design of it? Do you like the fact that it's a little bit more bulky? Do you like the fact that they're seemingly going to be removing the light bar? Or do you not like what you're seeing? Do you actually think the DualShock 4 is better than what you're seeing here with the potential DualShock 5? I will be very interested to see what you guys have to say about this one, so make sure you leave your thoughts down in the comments below. Be sure to also leave the video a like if you did end up enjoying it. It really helps it out. Lets me know you guys enjoy the content. Subscribe to the channel if you're new and haven't already. Hit the bell notification icon so you never miss an upload, and feel free to share this video out on top of all that. But until next time, guys, take care.